Hello and welcome. So this is our first tutorial on PostgreSQL. So let's start by connecting to our PostgreSQL server. So if you've installed for the first time, you'll be asked to make this connection. And you should see something like this. So we have to first of all select our server, which is the PostgreSQL server. So we will select that, and then the name comes automatically, the host name and address, the ports, the database, and then let's come to the role. So we'll select a role here. Let's select Postgres as the role, and then we'll provide the password you provided during the installation. So this password is important. And then we will just connect. So this should allow us to connect to the workspace. And to get to the workspace, let's go to the default workspace. And when you get to the default workspace, you find what the server is there. And if you open the drop down, you should see what PostgreSQL 17. Then one database is there. Then we have one schema, which is a public schema. So all of these are defaults objects that are given to you. So the next thing we want to do is that we are going to create our own schema. And the schema is also the same as the database. But in actual terms, the schema is the layout of your database, or that structure, that framework of your database. That is what we call the schema. But in SQL, we can use schema and database interchangeably. So just see them as the same thing. Okay, so but before we can do anything, we have to select the schema. And then once you select the schema, you realize that this query tool becomes active. Without selecting the schema, the query tool is inactive. So you can see that the query tool is inactive, and you have to select your schema before you can get your query tool active. So once that is done, then let's get a query tool here. So I'm going to click, and it's going to open the query tool for us with all the the menu items we can use for editing it and so on. So right here we have the query pane where we are going to write our SQL commands, and then we have some scratch pad there, so we wouldn't be using it for now. So let's close that one. And you should know that you can always maximize the page just to see your entire code, or you can minimize it when you don't need that. The same applies to the data output. So whatever execution that happens, you're going to get some output here, whether it is successful or there is an error. You're going to be given some message here. And that one you can also maximize and then minimize. Okay, so this is just about it, and this is going to be the save tool, and then you can open files. So somebody can save their script in SQL and then give to you, so you can open it direct from this part. And then we also have some edit tool that is quite important. I think there are a number of things we can do there, including indent selection, on indent selection, toggle comments, then toggle case of selected text. So usually the keywords are in uppercase. That is just a convention. You should make your keywords in uppercase. But without that, it's still going to run. Normally when I'm writing, I don't write in uppercase. Because that is going to slow me down. So I just write everything in lowercase. But after you've done that, you can come here and then set it properly so that it will look beautiful. And then you can always clear your queries and then format your SQL. All right, so let's start by creating some schemas here, which are the databases. So we're going to create a schema for level 300. So let's just say create schema, yeah, L300 or level 300 if you want it in full. So let's create schema level 300, and then you end with a semicolon. So if we execute this, it's going to create a schema for us. But yeah, but you can always add this is very important. Create schema, yeah, if not exist. Yeah, if not exist, sorry, am I right? Okay, so if not exist, yeah, you add an X here. So first of all, you should check your database to see if that particular schema called level 300 doesn't exist. And if it doesn't exist, you should create it. Yeah, this is important because sometimes you want to run an entire script. So when you don't have this, yeah, sort of caveats, and then the schema exists already, it will give you an error telling you that it already exists. Okay, so this one we are saying it should only create it if it doesn't exist. So if it doesn't exist, the condition is met and it proceeds. Okay, so if we execute this command, yeah, with the execution button here, let's hit execute. Then you can see that query returned successfully. Number of seconds is indicated. Yeah, so the message is that create schema. Yeah, query returned successfully in 101. Is it milliseconds or microseconds? Yeah, it's one of them. Now let's we have our schema created. You can verify that from the navigation pane over here. Yeah, so if we come down, we only have one schema at the moment, but if we refresh, we are going to see that we have two schema. That is the L level 300 schema we just created over here. So now that we have a schema, the next thing is to create your tables. Yeah, and then remember your entities become your tables. So we are going to create the table to store the information for our entity students. So our table name will be called students. So to do that, let's create table, create table students. Yeah, but we have a lot of databases. So you have to declare the name of the schema you want to create the table in. So our schema name is level 300. So dots, now you bring the name of the table, which is we want to call it students. Then let's open our bracket and put all the attributes which become the fields in your table. So let's start with the ID. Then we'll make the data type as integer and generated. Yeah, so if you want it to be system generated, so you can simply say generated always as identity. So this will allow the system to generate it. So previously you would have just said serial. Yeah, that is sort of old-fashioned. Yeah, so if you say serial, that means that the ID should be system generated, but now generated always as identity. Yeah, is the new what will I say? That is the new language, yeah, being used. Okay, so you can do that, and you can call this your primary key. So we already know what a primary key is, so we'll call this our primary key. Then each line has to end with a comma. So when I say line here, I mean column or attributes, because the attributes become the column or the fields in your table, and each one of them should end with a comma except the last one. Remember that, except the last one. All right, so let's go to the next one. We are going to add the first name. Yeah, then the first name is going to be variable character because names are of different sizes. So varchar, I'm assuming that the first name is not more than 50 characters. So I'll put 50 there. And I just want to say not null. So it becomes what? Mandatory. Yeah, so there should be a space there. So this is mandatory now. Then let's go to what the last name. Let's go to the last name, the same varchar. Yeah, sorry. And then the size is what let's say 50 and not now. So people cannot choose not to provide their last name or first name. So let's go to what gender. So gender, I'm going to use character, and then the data type, the female is what? A source character. So let me just use 7, and we are going to say that gender, we're going to add a check constraint here, and with a check we are saying that gender should be what yeah, it should be in this what list. So I'm going to provide gender in I'm going to provide a list. Gender should be in this list. It's either what a male, yeah, or a female. Okay. And then if you want to be liberal, then you put what prefer not to say. So gender can be what controversial. So just say prefer not to say. So people can prefer not to say what the agenda is if it is complicated. Yeah, prefer not to say. Okay, so this is it. All right. So let me get that out here. So this is it. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, perhaps the date of birth, DOB. Yeah, and this one, the data type is dates. Then I'm going to what? We can put a check constraint here so that people shouldn't provide dates in the future. Yeah, because anybody existing, yeah, already has what a date of birth that is what less than today's date. So you can what put that as a check. But I'm going to what skip that for now. Subsequently, we'll add that. All right, so let's I want to put some comment here, and then I'll say what date of birth. So TOB means date of birth. That's what I'm just saying here. Then let's go to the next one. What should we add? Yeah, student level. So you can just say student, yeah, level. And then student level, let's say it's character and it's what 3 characters maximum. And then we're going to what add a check constraint here, and then check. Then we'll say that student level, yeah, yeah, it should be in what student level should be inside what. Let's bring a list. Let's bring a list here. Okay, so I think the list should also be in brackets. So let's say 100, 200. Let's say 300, and then what? Bring a comma, and then 400. All right, so I'm going to just maximize this. So let's end with a comma here. But you see, I omitted some commas here. You have to bring all of them. If not, that will give us an error. So let's put a comma here. And then let's move on to the next one. Yeah, so now we have the student level. We can add what the address or the phone number. So let's add the phone one. Phone one. So this one I like to use what voucher. No, let me just use character because it's fixed size. So yeah, and then let's say 16. Yeah, and as we move on, I'll teach you how to add a max here to the phone number. Okay, so let's say that the phone number should be character and it should be 16. Yeah, that is phone one. And then what phone two. Yeah, because we said what phone number was multi-valued, yeah, attribute. So it can have what more than one value. So we have phone one, phone two, or you could call it work phone, personal phone, or something like that, land phone, and so on. So let's also what make the size 16, and then always remember to end with comma. Yeah, after each field. Let's go to the next one, address. So address is also multi-valued, but yeah, it's variable size, so we'll use varchar. Yeah, but the address can be more than 225. Yeah, so when you are dealing with what a string that is more than 225, you cannot use varchar. Varchar, the limit is 225. So I'm just going to what use text in the case of the address. So the data type will be text. And then we can put what some check here. So let's put a check. And then we what say character length or just length. Yeah, you can call it character length. Yeah, that is much more yeah, modern. Yeah, so character length. Yeah, then you say yeah, character length. Yeah, then we'll bring what address. Yeah, character length address one. So let's make this address one. Yeah, so character length address one. Yeah, then you say it should be between, yeah, address one between let's say 2 and then what's 500, something like that. Okay, let's end with a comma. Then we can just what replicate address 2 by copying and pasting this, and then what change this to address 2 and then address 2 here. Yeah, but maybe your address 2 you can give more room to it, so I could say 600, or you can still maintain the 500 if you think no address will be more than 500 characters. Yeah, and then you can make one of your addresses, yeah, mandatory. So we just simply say what not null, so that at least somebody provides an address. Yeah, and one of the phone numbers, we can also say the phone one, yeah, should be what mandatory, so not null. Yeah. Okay, so I think we've come to what the end. I'd like to what end it here. So I'm going to remove the comma at the end. Yeah, so you can see that all other what fields or lines, they have what commas except the last one. Yeah, and this is it. Let's execute it. Yeah, so because I have what if already exists, yeah, it is going to what check if the level 300 already exists, then it will skip creating it. But if it doesn't exist, it will create it. So now we are good to go. Let's execute the entire script. Okay, so let's check the output to see what we have there. Yeah, so there is a syntax error. It's like I've omitted some comma somewhere. All right, so let's check closely. Okay, so they are talking about line 8. Line 8. Okay, so let's check somewhere in line 8. There should be some comma that is missing. So male, female. Yeah, prefer not to say. Okay, so there is actually what? A bracket missing here. You know the brackets at the beginning of the gender, there is a bracket there that we have not closed. So we need to close this bracket. Okay, so I think we can try it again and let's see how it goes. So I'm going to create. Yeah, so there is also another what error here. So you see we've not closed this bracket as well. So we are going to close. I think even we should what student level in. Okay, maybe I should remove this brackets and then what? Yeah, student. So we check student level in. So let's try it again. So now the problem has shifted to, okay, so we are still in line 10. Yeah, there is an error near, but the comma. Okay, so check student level. So maybe I should what? Okay, so check student level. Okay. So there is some comma somewhere that should not be, that should be there or should not be there. Let's check it well. Okay. Okay, so let me just try to put this student level in another bracket to see. That will solve the problem. Okay, so the problem is not solved. Then let me just reverse. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to pause it to take. Okay, so I think the problem is that we didn't close the bracket in line 10. Yeah, because you can see that we've opened a bracket here, open another, and just close only one. So we need to close all open brackets. So I think, yeah, this should be it. Let's execute it once more. Okay. So let's see. All right, so that is successful because right now it already exists. Yeah, but if we want, yeah, we can drop it and run it again. Okay, so let me just drop it so that yeah, it's clear. Yeah, so let's just go down. So if we want to delete the table, yeah, we say we drop the table. Yeah, so now we want to drop both what? The table and the schema. But first you must drop your table before you drop the schema. So drop table. You just bring the name of the table. That is what L300.students, and then we'll execute this. This should drop the table for us. All right, this should drop the table for us. Okay. Yeah. So drop table L300. Oh, I'm running the entire distance. So usually you should highlight it. So this should drop the table for us. So you see the query was returned successfully. So it has been dropped. Yeah, so this one, we have to remove it here. If not, if we leave it, anytime we run, it will create the table and delete it again. That is what is going to be happening. So once you drop your table, you can also drop the schema. So let's also drop the schema. So the schema is just level 300. So we are going to drop the schema as well. Okay, so let me see the output here. Yeah, schema. Oh, I'm always running the entire script. So because I'm used to my SQL, yeah, so let's just learn to highlight before we execute. Okay, so once you highlight and you execute, let's see the output here. Yeah, error table does not exist. So now the table is gone. Okay, now the table is gone. All right, so let's delete this command. If not, it will create problems for us. Now, it is now as if we don't have anything, because if we refresh, you see that okay, the schema is still there. L300, that should also be gone. Okay, so I need to drop it. So let's drop, yeah, so I should say drop schema. I was dropping table, so drop schema, L300, level 300. Okay, so this will allow us to drop the schema. So let's highlight before we execute. Yeah, so you can see that the schema is now dropped. So if I go to refresh the schema again, you see that the level 300 schema will be gone. So right now it's gone. So I'm just going to clear this drop, and then we are going to execute the entire script again, which is going to create a schema, yeah, and then create a table inside the schema. So let's execute it. All right, so we can see that it's successful, and then table created, and then query returned successfully in 196 milliseconds or so. All right, so now that we have our schema, we can also a schema and table. We can also look at the table. So I'm just going to refresh the schema, and let's see our L300. So I'm going to refresh it as well. Yeah, so once you refresh it, and then you can now open it, and you go down, scroll down to our tables, and then refresh the table. So once you refresh the table, then you can open and select the table. Once you select the table, then the table tool here will be active. Yeah, so this is what you use to view your SQL tables. Yeah, unlike my SQL, you can write a command, yeah, and then execute the command to see your table. Yeah, but this one, yeah, if you are working in the command prompt or terminal, you can do that. But right now we are working with PD admin, and here we are using this particular tool to see our table. So let's look at our table. Yeah, and this is the table we have created so far. Yeah, so you can see the columns. Yeah, ID, first name, last name, gender, and so on. So the next thing I want us to do is to enter data into this table. So let me see. Yeah, I just don't want it to be so long. Yeah, so we just enter the data, and then we are going to yeah, end the video, and then we'll continue with the second video. Okay, so let's open another query tool, and then here we are going to enter data. Yeah, so I'm going to close this. Yeah, maximize, and then we are going to insert data. So you insert insert into the name of the schema first, level 300. Okay. So students, the name of the table is students. Then you declare the fields you want to enter data into. Okay. Yeah, so you may want to either copy them from here or make sure that you are able to get the names right. So if you are using lowercase, please use lowercase and so on. Okay. So I'm just going to declare the names of the fields here, and then they should be separated by comma. So perhaps I think maybe we can leave the ID because it's going to be system generated. So let's start with the first name. Yeah, then sorry, it should be comma separated. Last name. We have gender. Do we have POB? And then let's say phone 1, then address 1. Okay, so let me cross check to see what else I'm leaving out. Student level, I didn't bring the student level. Yeah, so you don't always have to bring all if you don't want to. You only bring what you want to enter data for. So whatever data you have, those are the fields you are going to declare. So let's bring the student level. So yeah, the order doesn't really matter here. Yeah, so it doesn't have to follow that order, but just make sure it is in some order. And then when you are entering the values should follow the same order as you have declared. So I'm going to bring student level before phone number. So let's see. Let me see how the student level is written, because so it's lowercase. So it has to be exactly this way. Yeah, so you just want to avoid mistakes. Yeah, just copy it and paste. All right, so this is it. And now we are going to continue, but because there is no space here, I'm going to go to the next line. Then we declare the values we want to enter. Yeah, so values. So now we'll bring the value for what? First name. Let's say the first name is John. But sorry, it has to be in single quotes. So there is when to use single quotes and when to use what double quotes. Yeah, so if you are entering values as text, yeah, you want them to be entered the way you've provided it, then you should use single quotes. Yeah, that is what PostgreSQL, but in MySQL, that doesn't really matter. Yeah, but in PostgreSQL, you have to use single quotes for the values you are entering. But yeah, your column names, if the column name is a keyword or the table name is a keyword, you have to use double quotes. Yeah. So now let's bring the last name, which is our last name. We are going to call it Mensa. Yeah, so John Mensa. Then let's go to the next one, which is the student gender. So the gender, John Mensa should be a male. So let's put a male there. And it should correspond with what you declared earlier. Yeah, so the male, I use uppercase at the beginning. So you can't come here and write all in uppercase or all in lowercase. It has to be exactly the same as you provided. Okay. Then let's enter the date of birth. Yeah, so usually we start with the year, and then let's say 1980. Then we use a dash, July 7, and then what? Uh, July, sorry, and then the third day. So the next one we want to enter is the student level, and this is what a level 300 class. So I'll just put a 300 there. Let's go to the next one, the phone one. Yeah, so let's put some numbers there. Okay, then let's go to the address. So remember to always separate all the values with a comma. Yeah, so the address, we are just going to say what UPSA main campus, Legon Accra. Okay. Then we'll say Legon Accra. All right, so this is our address. Yeah. Then you could add what your room number or hostel name and so on. So let me say room, yeah, 320. Okay. So now you can see that we've provided values for all what the fields we've declared. So let's now put a semicolon at the end, and then we'll execute this. All right, so you can see that our data has been entered successfully. So I will want to enter more data. So to enter more data, I'll just copy this and then replicate it several times so that we just change some of the values. Okay, so I'm just going to change some of the names and so on. So we have John Mensa, and then yeah, let's say Opoku Mensa. Let's say Charles Brown. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, maybe something like this. Charles Brown. Brown there. All right. So the date of birth may not all be the same. So let's say this one is 1986. This one 84. Yeah. So let's also bring some females as well. Yeah. So the first name will be yeah, let's say LC Brown here. Yeah. Then let's bring Amma. Yeah. Maybe let's see. Okay. Then let's also add maybe just two females here. And let's add another male here. Yeah, so this one we'll call it James Brown. Or is it James Bond? So let's call it James Brown. So we just need a lot of Browns here. So what's surnames or last names. Yeah, so these are female. So let's make that correction, female. Yeah. Then we'll do the same thing here. Yeah, but remember this has to correspond with how you um, declared female in the list. You know, when we're creating the table, yeah, female was in a particular list. We provided a list there. Yeah, so it has to be consistent. Yeah, and if you want, you can modify the addresses. Maybe this one, let's say UG. Yeah, and then maybe this one is also UG. Yeah, so let's say this one, and maybe we say it's from Gimpa. Okay, and maybe another Gimpa person. Okay, so now we have a lot of data to enter here. So um, so let's call this one Geomancer. Okay, so I think now we can probably enter the data again. So let's execute. Okay, so we've entered all the data successfully. Yeah. So after this, I'll save even the script and share them with you. I'm now going to view data. So let's go to our table. Yeah. Or better still, we'll just write a command to view the table. So I can write an SQL command here, or I can go back to one of the scripts here, and I can write it here. Or you can just use open a new script, yeah, where you're going to write your queries that will allow you to query your database. So you can always write it anywhere you please. So now we are going to select. Yeah, so the select statement is very powerful. It will allow you to run a lot of queries on your database. So select all. So usually all we use asterisk from the name of the table is schema first. So that is level 300 dot students. So our table is called students. So select all from level 300 dot students. So let's execute this. Yeah, so these are all the students in level 300 dot students. So you can see that. And our address line 2, we didn't provide values. Yeah, we didn't provide. But later on, we'll learn how to update. So we could use the update command to update the missing values that we didn't provide at the beginning. Yeah. So now this is our database, and yeah, we can do some further manipulation. So let's say we want to write a query to generate a list of all male students in our database. Okay, so let's see how we are going to do that. Let me get back. Restore, and then let's write a command to say select all from level 300 students, dot students. Yeah, then we'll bring the where clause. Now we are trying to put a condition. The condition is that they should be male. Okay, yeah, so what should be male? So we have to get the criteria. Where gender equal to male. Yeah, but the gender, we have to get the writing correct, or the spelling of the gender correct. So how do we write gender? Gender is sentence case. So let's always get the case right. So I'm going back, and then where gender, yeah, equal to male. So we can use where gender equal to male. All right. I should use single quotes, yeah. Where gender equal to male. Yeah, so let's the semicolon here, and then we will just highlight the command we want to run and then execute. All right, so these are just what the male students. So you can see that now it has only what segregated only the male students. Yeah, but sometimes you don't want to select all. You want to select just some fields. So you can also do that. So we can modify this command to just, instead of selecting all, we are going to select some fields. Yeah, so you don't always have to select all. So we could select, for instance, yeah, first name. We could select the first name, yeah, last name, and then let's see, let's add the gender. And then let's add the phone number. Yeah, so phone one. And what it was uppercase. Let's check that. Yeah, well, it has to correspond. If not, you get some error there. So the phone is uppercase. Okay, so sometimes when you are looking at the header, so you can see the headers of the table, everything is in lowercase. Yeah, so but it has to correspond with what you put in the table originally. So now we've written a command here, select first name, here, last name, gender, and phone number from what? Level 300 schema, yeah, table student, where what? Gender equal to what? Male. Okay. So now let's execute this. All right, so now you see our table, we've not selected all. So you can always, if you want, you can select just one. If there's one thing you need, you can select that. And then let's what, not be, how will I say, bias. So let's also what, yeah, add a query for the females. Okay, so now let's say female. Okay, I'm going to execute this command. Okay, so let's execute a command, and there we go. Now we have what? The females. Yeah. So also you could what? Let's run the what? The first command that will give us all the students in the database. Okay, so you realize that with all the students we had in the database, we had those that were having a common what? Last name